You guys write like Seattle, one of the AI capitals of the world. You guys cover it all the time. Lots of really great stuff happening there. No shade to anybody at all. But like, there's not a lot of people investing in just like, hey, how do we make sure as humans we're more connected to each other?
If you're looking for an uncommon thinker, how about a tech industry veteran who's developing and selling landline phones in 2025 and selling out of them in the process? Hi, everybody. It's GeekWire co-founder Todd Bishop, and this week I'm talking with Chet Kittleson. He's the co-founder and CEO of Tin Can. That's a Seattle startup that's making Wi-Fi-enabled landline phones for kids. Tin Can has sold out of multiple batches of its colorful phones, which are designed to let kids talk to friends and family with just their voices, no screens, and no artificial intelligence. GeekWire recognized Chet as one of our uncommon thinkers for 2025. This program, presented in partnership with Greater Seattle Partners, honors inventors, scientists, and entrepreneurs who are transforming their industries in unexpected ways. I caught up with Chet Kittleson this week to talk about the product, the mission, and what it's like to bet on human connection in an age of artificial intelligence. Chet, it's great to have you on the show.
Oh man, Todd, so good to be here. I've been following you guys forever, since I think 2010 when I moved over to Seattle. And yeah, I appreciate you.
Likewise, and we've been following your career from real estate to ride sharing, now to Tin Can on GeekWire. And you are one of our 6 uncommon thinkers for 2025. This is a program that is presented by GeekWire in partnership with Greater Seattle Partners. And you were a little under the weather last week. You weren't able to make the event. And frankly, for me, it was a moment of serendipity because I really wanted to be able to have a more extended conversation with you. I'm so fascinated by what you're doing at Tin Can and the throwback retro nature of it. And not only that, but the notion of really separating ourselves and our kids from the technology that's shaped our lives in so many positive and frankly negative ways. So let's get into all that. But first, I wonder if we could just start with the what of this story, and the what being the device, and then we could tell it from there. What is Tin Can, the device?
So Tin Can, you kind of said it. It's a Wi-Fi enabled landline phone redesigned really specifically for kids. We have 2 different offerings. We have one that we call the Flashback, which really was our prototype, and we still sell it today. And then we have our Wi-Fi Tin Can, which has been in a pre-order state from about April 30th, I believe, all the way until really a week or 2 ago. We started officially delivering a lot of those units. It's been a crazy couple of weeks here. And both of them they connect to your home internet. The Flashback needs to be plugged in directly to your router via a provided Ethernet cable. The Wi-Fi Tin Can connects to your internet wirelessly, but it's still a plug-in-the-wall phone. There's no battery. So you plug it into a standard outlet, and then you log in with our parent companion app, and it'll give you instructions to get it connected to the internet. Once they're connected, it is supposed to feel very much like the landline felt when we were kids. So your kids can call other kids that have tin cans, or they can call parents or grandparents on their parents' or grandparents' cell phones or landline phone numbers. A couple of things we talk about that make it different. So you do have a parent companion app. That app, beyond setup, allows you to control exactly which numbers your kids can communicate with. So most landlines, pretty much all landlines, are on what's called the PSTN, Public Switch Telephone Network. Ours are not. It is a fully private network. And the only way your kid can reach another or be reached by another is if you, in the app, program that number as a parent-approved contact, and then they basically get to pass through into our private network and have a call. There's other things too, like callable hours. So if your kids go to bed at 8, you can make it where the call can't receive or make calls after 8 p.m. But at its core, it's the ability for your kid who might not have a cell phone yet to be able to communicate with grandparents or their best friends about the next slumber party and to have some of that agency.
It is a throwback, but it's got these enhancements and the app and different features that modernize it just enough is my sense of it. Am I on the right track?
That's 100% right. Yeah, I always tell the team, our goal is never to be a feature factory. This is supposed to be simple. One of our values is keep it simple. We want it to feel very familiar to a parent that grew up with a landline, and we want it to feel very new for a kid. And so, yeah, there's modern security and modern parental controls that we wouldn't have thought to have when the landline wasn't a utility for the whole house. And by the way, those utilities are really nice for the whole house. I use my tin can as a home phone now. When I'm not home, I call the tin can. My whole house is programmed to answer it. Everybody hears it. It's not in a pocket on vibrate. And if it rings, that it's somebody you want to talk to on the other end. It's your dad or your mom or your grandma or your best buddy.
$75 for one of these devices?
That's right. $75 for the hardware. And then we have two plans. We have the can to can plan, which is totally free. That allows a tin can to communicate with as many other tin cans as you want. And then you also can call 911 with the can to can plan. I think we're the only provider that allows for that. That's something we pay for, and we want to provide that as a service to families. And then we have the party line plan, which is either $9.99 per month or $99 per year. And that allows all the external calling as well. So if you want the sort of it to be closer to a full home phone where you can call cell phones or the pizza place or whatever, you go for the party line plan. And that's what a vast majority of our customers use.
So Chet, what was the inspiration? I know you have kids of your own, but can you tell us a little bit more of the story of how Tin Can came to be?
Well, I'll go back to my childhood a little bit first, and then I can talk about the moment of inspiration, which was at my kid's school a few years ago. As a kid, I was, and I still am, very extroverted and super motivated. And so I was definitely the kid that used my landline, my house phone, as a social network. From a young age, elementary school, I was calling friends every single day and trying to organize play dates. We would play roller hockey in the street in front of my house, go bike to the little community pool. I grew up in a small town an hour and a half north of Seattle called LaConner. And we were sort of lucky in that it was a very small community. So we kind of had free reign, but we used the phone to figure out what we were going to do that day. And so I was gifted with a childhood where I had a ton of agency at an early age. If I was bored, it was my responsibility to figure out how to be unbored. And I had a tool that allowed me to do that quite effectively. And as a social network, the landline had 100% penetration. Everybody had one. And so I knew, if I had a new friend, I'd ask for their number and suddenly they were a part of my network and I can get a hold of them. And so fast forward, 30 years, I now have 3 kids. I've got a 10-year-old daughter, and then I have 2 boys, an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. I think it was probably 2.5 to 3 years ago, I started to feel a lot more interest from my oldest in this desire for agency. She started to have sleepovers. She started to, ask about play dates a lot more. And I was noticing it was really on me. I would call myself the social chair of the family, which, by the way, kind of atypical. It's usually me and 12 moms on a group thread coordinating what's going to happen this weekend. And it was frustrating to me. And so there was this day, I both felt sad for my kids and I was also annoyed at them because I was like, why can't you take some responsibility here? I did. And so we had this day, probably 2.5 years ago. I was picking my kids up from school. They were playing in a field while me and some of the parents talked. And one of the moms made this comment, I feel like I'm an executive assistant for my kid. I'm just constantly spending all my time trying to figure out how to get them from here to there and who they're going to play with tomorrow and blah, 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 blah. And I made the comment, and this is the first time I had this thought when we were kids. Our first social network was the landline, and everybody was like, I totally forgot. And I did too, honestly. You remember it as an adult utility. And I think we kind of all forgot that we were major beneficiaries of that as kids. And then we all started reciting our best friends' phone numbers, which we still remember today. And now we can't remember anybody's numbers because we're all, in a cell phone. It's a stored contact. And so in that conversation, I basically called out this idea of what if, and then I started to do research. And, you can go to a cable company, depending on where you live, and get maybe a VoIP phone or maybe a copper landline if you still have it in your house. But it was like the least sexy, least specific experience. And convincing your friends, if you want to build what's now being called sort of a landline pod, to like, hey, let's all go to the cable company and have the cable company come out and install.
Right.
It's hard. And so we wanted to make it really fun and really specific and really easy. And we can talk more, but like, it sort of went viral way faster than anything I've ever experienced. And yeah, it's been a crazy, crazy year.
Shout out to my best friend growing up, Carl Gunnis, 916-865-3326.
Ryan Kuntz, 466-4615. Yeah.
It's amazing. So tell me more about how you've gotten to this point. Because, I mean, you are sold out in multiple ways on these devices. And one of the bummers right now, I think, for people listening is Christmas-wise, it's getting too close to Christmas anyway. But frankly, no chance at this point of getting a tin can under the tree.
No. I mean, not if you are in batches 1 through 3, we still feel very good about getting all of those delivered by Christmas. Everything's going out. It's either already gone out or today or tomorrow will be. But yeah, if you order today, it'll be likely February before you get your tin can. So how it happened, I mean, honestly, we can sort of continue the story where we just were. So had the conversation, it percolated for 2 years. The name Tin Can like literally came to me in the shower one random morning when I was still a year away from working on it, but I just couldn't shake the idea that it was special and interesting, would really solve a problem that was personal to me. And so in September of 2024, my co-founders, Graham and Max and we said, you know what, let's build some prototypes. Let's see if we can do 10 of them. We'll lock ourselves in my kitchen for a week and see if we can get 10 done and deliver them. And we just wanted to see, are the kids going to think it's lame? Do they actually care? How will the parents respond? Will they actually plan a play date? I think we had this slight fear that the world had shifted so much toward SMS, so this idea of a forced audio call would be scary and weird. And also the form factor, we really wanted to go with a landline style form factor. And we wanted to validate that was okay, or do we need to go build some weird custom thing? And so we delivered the first prototypes. I have videos of it. It's like the most special memory. I remember I took my daughter Emma to soccer practice. On the way to practice, we picked up her best friend Mara, and we went in, and I had talked to her parents, and we went in and like surprised her and gave her a flashback. And my wife had like made a phone book for her, and I set it up. And then on the way home, me and Mara and Emma stopped at their other friend's, Maggie, and the three of us walked up, and then we did the same thing at Maggie's house. And that was the first little tin can, network. And I think very early, the things that were clear were kids were missing something and they didn't know it. We had it was lost, but nobody realized it. And when you give a kid a portal into their best friend's bedroom or into their grandma's house, they love it. And so everything from the form factor and the way you push the buttons, but more importantly, what it did. And people always ask us about like nostalgia and retro. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about connection. We found a form factor that is familiar, and that's certainly been beneficial, and people love nostalgia. And so I think from a growth and brand perspective, that's been helpful. But we feel like we're more of a connection factory than we are bringing back the bell bottoms, if you will. And then the other side of it was how viral it was right away. Like the moment you'd walk into a house, the first question from the parent was, hey, I really want to make sure their two best friends can have it. How do I get it for them? And in the early days, I would say, can you just like put me on a text thread and I'll drive to their house at some point this week and try to get them set up with one. And then every house was like, now I have 5 people. Now I have 20 people. Now I have 40 people. I've always assumed that people that go viral have some magical ability. And in this case, it's just that we had a thing that wanted really badly to exist. I guess you call that product market fit. And people everywhere now have bought or are waiting to get a tin can.
I should clarify, too, for people who might have missed it earlier, when you're saying flashback, this is a device that you would recognize. The style, the form factor is something you would have recognized from back in the day. You might still be able to find one in a Goodwill.
Yep. It's like an old school trimline phone. The first ones literally came from Goodwill and Burien. So, yeah.
And that is the one where it's not Wi-Fi enabled. but the tin can sort of has a different type of look, and it looks like a tin can on the surface, and that is the one that is Wi-Fi enabled, although it still needs to be plugged in. So it's not
That's
the
right.
kind of thing where you're going to walk around or take it to the kitchen table like a cell phone.
Yep, that's right.
When we come back, Chet Kittleson of Tin Can explains why his own kids have never owned a device of their own and what happened when they took away the screens on family road trips. You, as a parent, I think, are different than a lot of other parents. I assume your 10-year-old, and some 10-year-olds might have a screen, but your 10-year-old does not have a smartphone. Am I right?
That is correct. None of my kids have they don't own a device that is theirs. And I will say we are not Luddites. I've been in tech my whole career. I love technology. I think it's powerful. I think it's also very important to have a controlled relationship. And I think we can help our kids. I feel like I've helped my kids by, not giving them something they're not going to have control over too early. And so they do screen time. We do movie nights on Fridays. My daughter will use my Kindle to read a book sometimes. She also uses my wife's iPad for drawing. She loves the Procreate app. I think she wants to be an illustrator someday. But yeah, they don't have a cell phone, certainly. And they don't have like their own iPad or their own tablet or anything like that.
Do you notice a difference? And I know this it's a hard question, but it also gets into you don't want to criticize other people's kids, but like, do you notice a difference in their outlook, in their demeanor, the way they interact with the world because they don't have devices of their own?
I think there's so many variables that I don't want to be overly like arrogant about it, but I can use my own family as a control and I sort of have a control and a variable. So pre-tin can, we've always been reasonably disciplined. Like they've never had a cell phone, but I would say we were much more pro. The screen was a very helpful third parent. We were underwater. We've got 3 kids. I relate to every family out there that gives their kid a device because sometimes you just need the break and you're like, you know what? I got to take care of myself first. And I get that. And I've been there and I'll be there again. But post tin can, I'm reading all these books. I'm meeting people like Jonathan Haidt. You can't not drink the Kool-Aid when you start a company like this. And so I did talk to my wife and I was like, I want to make some changes in part because I'm starting to really believe they're necessary. And in part because I'm the founder of this company. I'm going to be on a podcast with Todd Bishop someday. And I want to be able to tell him that I made these changes. And so there's a few examples here. When we would travel to Spokane, where my wife's family lives, it was movie city. They would watch 3 movies from the moment we got in the car to the moment we got to Spokane. You're watching movies. Lindsay and I are having a great old time up front. We can actually have a conversation with each other. They might need a snack every once in a while, but otherwise it's like zombies in the back seat. Awesome. Traveling as well. If we flew anywhere that was like an extended travel, cool. iPad's going to be mom and dad for us for a few hours. One of the changes we made was we had eliminated that. We told the kids, hey, we're not going to do screen time even on the long road trips. If we're in a plane together, we'll play games. My wife, my daughter, and I just went to LA recently and we played cribbage the whole way.
Boy, how'd that go over, Chet?
Which part?
Not the cribbage, but the declaration.
Well, so here's the thing. It was so much easier than I expected. And I genuinely it was. I think the first road trip, there were no hellacious meltdowns, but there were definitely moments where it was like, oh, why can't we watch a movie? But as is the case with most children, not all, if you're firm and you lay down a rule, we didn't have movies in the car. Like we didn't bring the movie playing devices. And so it was like, well, what are we going to do? There are no screens here. I told you guys up front. And your kids are so much more capable of being bored than we give them credit for, but you will never see it unless you give them the opportunity to show you how good they are at being bored. And like we have built an addiction in them. Like my wife and I built an addiction in my kids and we had to break it. And yeah, again, for us, there were no hellacious meltdowns. For some, I'm sure there would be. But when we took it away and then made it where it wasn't even possible to get it, they played the license plate game. They did all the things that we did when we were kids before movies existed in the car. And so I think, the number one thing they get, and this is less from the communication and connection side of Tin Can, but more from like the the promoting a more screen-free existence is they just learn how to be more independent and how to be more bored, which I think is a very important and like maybe lost art.
You mentioned Jonathan Haidt, and for people who aren't familiar, he is the social psychologist and the author of The Anxious Generation, which really gets into these underlying trends that you're addressing here. One small thing, generationally, there's the cliche, at least, that younger people in their 20s and 30s especially, just do not like to talk on the phone. What's been your experience with that? And was that a concern? And how do you view that based on what you've seen from the usage of Tin Can?
Yeah. So I think I have so many different thoughts here, and I honestly, they're still forming to some degree. But I think a couple of things. One, for kids, they have no alternative. Most kids in the U.S., age 11 and under, don't have a cell phone. I believe that age is like ticking up every year with things like Tin Can coming out and Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation. I think we're very sort of woke as a society now around this idea that, cell phones aren't great for young people. And so when you give them an ability to talk to their friends, they will take it, whatever that ability's medium is. And so it's hard for me to know. But what I will say is when you get someone to use their voice to talk, it is undeniable that the experience is more impactful, more powerful, more profound than any other form of communication. Other than obviously like hugging a person, being with a person. There was a study that was done, I don't even know when, it was, in the last few years, where researchers put a group of kids in a stressful situation. I think they had to do like really hard math, but in front of a group of adults or something like that. So heart rate spiked. Then they separated these kids into 3 groups. One group got to text their mom. One group got to call their mom, and one group got to see their mom. The 2 that got to actually interact with their mom, either see or call, their bodies release oxytocin. So bonding chemical, their heart rate slowed down. They felt calm. The group that texted, there was no chemical effect. It was like nothing happened. It's not connection. You are like communicating, but that's not the same thing as connecting. And so for people who, might be averse to it at the start, once they experience it, it can be its own form of drug. It's just a drug that actually, is a lot more like broccoli than it is like sugar.
Coming up, we ask Chet Kittleson what's next for Tin Can and whether this approach could extend beyond phones. And Chet, you all had some news this past week. You just had another fundraising. What's the significance of this fundraise and what will it do for you as a company?
Yeah, we're really excited. We just closed a $12 million seed. It's being led by Greylock, a fund that I've been sort of fans and friends with for a long time, given my time at Redfin. A guy named James Slavitt was on the board of Redfin forever, and he was a general partner at Greylock for, I think, 15 years. And he introduced me to someone at Greylock that he hired, a guy named Mike, who's just been such an awesome early partner for us. And then we also have participation from a guy named David Schumann, who I'm really excited about. He has his own fund called Lateralis Holdings, and he's the chairman of the board of Aura, the smart ring company. And we are a bunch of technologists with very little hardware experience. So he's really the one that's bringing just an insane wealth. I think he invested in Aura when they were selling about a ring a day, and now they're worth some, ungodly amount of money. I think significance for us is both money to invest in making sure this experience is amazing, being able to hire up the technical talent and even the customer support people to be able to keep up with demand and make sure the experience is good. And then just bringing some people around the table that have experience different from ours, networks different from ours. So we're pretty elated. It feels like a very good thing. And these people care. They've got kids. We felt really precious about who we let in here. This was a unique experience where we had a choice. My last company was not the same way. And I feel like we chose people that are a really good combination of high hospitality quotient. They really care about us and about the customer and about the world that we want to see. And they're also really technically proficient. Mike is like a growth machine. He was head of growth at Stitch Fix for a long time. And David just knows like everything you could ever want to know about supply chain and manufacturing and, cash flow. And, he already helped us a million different ways. So super exciting for us.
So where do you go with this? Are there other things you could do that would be new products, new modalities, new things that we might remember from our childhoods growing up?
Right now, we are delivering a bazillion tin cans around the country, all of which we are working so hard to get there by Christmas. And we're cutting it close. And so it's hard for me to see the forest, the trees on that in this moment. And I think even for the next, call it year at least, I think everyone should have a tin can. As a business owner, of course, I want that. As a dad and a caretaker of childhood, I think it needs to be true. And maybe they'll get a different landline. Great. I don't care. But get your kid a talking device that allows them to connect with other people. And I think we can play a great role in making that really easy and affordable and simple for folks. And I think it's a big job for us to figure out how to support millions of users and then, tens of millions of users. But this isn't a startup. I've built companies before where I'm imagine if 2% of the world, what a great business that would be. This one, I'm I think everybody, I don't know why any 10-year-old or 12-year-old or 6-year-old wouldn't have a device like this in their house. It will make their lives better. I believe it. And so there's a lot of work for us to do there. And then I would say the thing that's been the most addictive to me about this is just how you can hear it in the way I engage, how just what a strong reminder of how important authentic connection is. You guys write Seattle, one of the AI capitals of the world. You guys cover it all the time. Lots of really great stuff happening there. No shade to anybody at all. But there's not a lot of people investing in just hey, how do we make sure as humans we're more connected to each other? And so the idea of Tin Can playing a role in helping people across every generation, not just kids, feel more connected to each other through hardware, through software, et cetera. I could never sleep again, if I could spend my time working on that. So I think we are excited to expand, and I don't know what it'll look like yet, but it'll all be under this guise of, Todd, do you feel more connected to other people now or not? And if you do, we succeeded. If you don't, we failed.
That's really interesting. So much like, Microsoft's mission back in the day would be a computer on every desk and in every home. It would be a tin can on every credenza and a warm feeling of human connection in the hearts of the people using them.
I love that. Yep. I'll use that in my next interview.
That's great. Well, I got to say, though, I was thinking you might go someplace else because I picked it up at Seattle secondhand store, a 1980s era black and white Gold Star television in my office at home.
Oh, man.
I've been on ChatGPT trying to figure out how to hook up the HDMI to it. I'm thinking about the digital receiver. I've totally ruined the retro nature of it, but there is so much out there, over the air TV, actually, that would be interesting. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that you would necessarily meet the warm feeling in the heart from that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an interesting one. I think the tricky thing for us will be, picking a lane and knowing what we do and what we don't. And that's a great example. And honestly, I always use the bell bottoms example because people will say hey, the past is cool. What if Tin Can brings back the Walkman and this and that? And I'm maybe, but our goal is not to bring stuff back. It's to make people feel more connected. And for this specific product instantiation, it felt like the best way to make people feel more connected. But for our next product, who knows? Maybe it will be something totally new. I don't have an attachment to, the past. I have an attachment to, in the future, people feeling more connected than they do today.
All right. So last question for you, Chet. We recognized you along with Greater Seattle Partners as part of this program called Uncommon Thinkers. And as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking, back in the day, if we had interviewed you in the 80s, like you would not have been an uncommon thinker. Like, this idea would not necessarily have qualified, but today it really does. And it's more about the rest of the world. So I guess my question is, are you an uncommon thinker, or have the rest of us, me included, just kind of gone off the rails?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I have always. It's a really hard question, Todd.
Yeah.
I have always. The thing that I can say about myself, and I just kind of hate saying things about myself, but I had a mom who was unwavering in her belief that I could do anything. I have a funny story. When I was a kid, I started to write horrible songs. I don't even think I had any music to them. I'm pretty sure that one of the songs, I remember one line, it was just "Sports is all I know. Give me just one chance to make it big." It was so bad. And I think I had some like boy band tune to that. And I went and I visited my aunt and uncle, who are amazing, loving people, like super influential in my life growing up, especially. And my uncle, much more pragmatic, successful business owner, kind of the only successful, at least at the time, person from that like line, my family, was like, "Hey, you're really not a great singer." And he was, he was very loving of him. It hurt me at the time, but he was like, "Hey, like, I don't want you to, like, dude, you're not like, this isn't it." And my mom was like, "Whatever you want to do, if you work hard enough, if you believe, if you've got the guts, you can do it." And so I think that's made me willing to see things that others maybe wouldn't see, but more importantly, made me more inclined to be open to the idea that I could be the reason something like the Landline comes back. Whereas, like, I told a lot of people this idea, and in general, people agreed, like they resonated with the idea of the power of the Landline for kids. And they were like, "But you could go get a landline from your cable company. Anybody could build a landline," which is obviously a very common sort of misconception for a non-founder type to be like, "Well, if that was an opportunity, someone would have done it already." And like many founders, I have sort of a parental situation that makes me a little bit uncommon in that regard.
That's really cool. Your mom helped to make you an uncommon thinker because she allowed you to think big and didn't tell you that you were a horrible singer and not a musician.
Totally, 100%.
Well, it's interesting because you seem to have found some investors like Ben Gilbert who also have been willing to make that leap. One of my favorite parts of the profile that my colleague Kurt Schlosser wrote about you for this series was the quote from Ben about, he kind of had to stifle a laugh, or, when you first pitched him on the idea.
I don't know if he stifled it, by the way. He might say he did, but I think there was an audible laughter.
So you've gravitated in your professional life to people who are willing to take that leap with you, it seems.
Yeah, totally. I met Ben at a startup weekend, 2010, 2011, and hit it off. And we tried to build a couple things together. And yeah, I think this is very normal too. Like, we're social beings and we sort of find people that have common traits. And when you find others that have a similar trait of like, I can build, I can create, I'm capable, I'm unafraid, that's the kind of person I want to be around. Ben is, I mean, gosh, that times 1,000.
For folks who don't know, Ben is a longtime investor. He was at Pioneer Square Labs for many years. He's still affiliated with them. And of course, you probably know him as one half of the duo, along with David Rosenthal, behind the hit podcast Acquired. Ben's been on the GeekWire podcast a couple times as well. And as Chet is saying, he and Ben go way back. Well, Chet, this is great. I know you've got some customer support calls to get back to and holiday deadlines to meet. So I'm going to leave it at that and just say Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to seeing where you take this.
Cool. Thank you, Todd. I've been to many galas, and you don't always picture yourself up there. And so getting the email from John really felt like, I'm a born and raised Pacific Northwesterner. So you've been my news source forever. So it meant a lot. It was fun to, tell my mom and things like that. So I appreciate you guys supporting us.
Absolutely. And your co-founder, Max Blumen, did a great job representing you. And I'm glad you're feeling better as well.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Chet Kittleson is the co-founder and CEO of Tin Can, and he's one of GeekWire's uncommon thinkers for 2025. See the show notes for a link to the profile of Chet by my colleague Kurt Schlosser, and listen to last week's episode to hear conversations with our other 5 Uncommon Thinkers honorees. Uncommon Thinkers is presented by Greater Seattle Partners. I'm GeekWire co-founder Todd Bishop. Curt Milton edited this episode. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with a new episode of the GeekWire podcast.